The Edge of Wonder presents Contact in the Desert 2018. Special guests featuring Laura Eisenhower.
In part one of our exclusive interview with Laura Eisenhower, we discussed her family background, Valiant Thor, the mysterious Guardians, and how to connect with our awareness. In part two, we'll go deeper into issues of satanic elements, such as what role Saturn plays, and the grotesque child pedophilia.
Yeah, I feel like this is really important to talk about this, which is like the whole satanic aspect of really what's going like rampant and throughout the government and society, actually. And you touched on this a little bit yesterday in one of the speeches that you were talking about. But anyway, can you again, I feel bad kind of going in this direction, but yeah, but I mean, like Rob said, we do need to expose this, and I feel like you have a lot of information that can help a lot of people.
Oh yeah, well the satanic element, I mean, you know, in the technologies they use, I refer to them as like black magic technologies, vampiric technologies to siphon life force, to power up their weaponry, to, you know, basically weaponize nature, weaponize us against each other, keep that conquer, divide, and trauma, you know, going, because when we do that, they feed on it. They've disconnected from source. They compromise their DNA so that they could stay, you know, in control. And if they can limit us and keep us small, then they're kind of our overlords. They're our controllers. They're our rulers, right? And so for them to be able to do it, they have to really, you know, work with the elements, but in a very dark and black magic manipulation kind of way. So they, you know, might find, well, they put a lot of those dark technologies at significant places on the earth grids, sacred sites, and they do, you know, dark rituals to, you know, keep a very low energy, you know, just throughout the circuitry of the earth. And then, of course, there's pedophilia, and that's to take the life force of children. And then we see, you know, the MK Ultra projects, the mind control projects, and how they're using humans, you know, as sex slaves, as assassins, and, you know, pretty much like whatever they you know want, and it's so rampant, and a lot of it has to do with deals they made with off-planet entities. Barter and exchanges for power and fame is usually the thing that like makes them say, okay, I'll give it up for that.
Well, just going on that note, so it was today, Emery Smith was talking, and he was actually saying that they will take like a famous person, make a clone out of them, and then use them as like sex slaves for like the elites. And he said it doesn't even have, I mean, he said he couldn't even, he just had to stop talking about it, because he just said, he's like, I don't even like talking about this stuff because it's so disgusting. He's like, that's just touching the surface on some of the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah, and it's a lot for people to wrap their head around. And, you know, what we really need to know is something is trying to steal and rob, and we just have to, like, you know, hold our treasures, you know, close, and protect ourselves and protect one another, and you know, be very mindful. You know, we have to really stay conscious and aware, because there's all sorts of targeting. You know, the AI signals are everywhere, and at every moment we have a choice to connect into the AI signals, which will start to really digress us and merge us into machine, or we have the ascension, organic ascension signals that we can integrate, and it moves into our nervous system, it activates the DNA, and it starts to neutralize some of this weaponry, and we you know, walk around very protected. And that's really the path of ascended mastery versus digressing into a lower form that goes and starts abducting, you know, further down the timeline, because it's digressed, it's only like increased to certain, but you know, a lot of those beings are enslaved by this larger hierarchy of the reptilian agenda, and not all reptilians are negative, but you know, there's definitely like
So there is some positive reptilians that are working with us? Yeah,
I mean, we all, you know, have a reptilian part of us too, and I mean, there's a lot of different, you know, species out there. A lot in, you know, subterranean cultures, they're having a real hard time wanting to interact with us because of the infiltration, because of how they see us now, like we're infected. Like, you know, they're more sort of like a dragon type energy. Reptilian would be like the lower octave, sort of like demonic almost.
Okay, so a lot of evidence we're finding is that okay, there are hexagons that have been appearing, for instance, all over New York City.
And black cubes.
Which basically you turn on its side, looks like a hexagon, right? There is a huge hexagon storm over Saturn. There are reports of people having been transported to one of Saturn's moons, and on those moons are things like temples looking similar to like the Denver International Airport or whatever, right? Do you have any information on Saturn itself being one of these places that some of these rituals happen where certain entities do exist. Do you have any thoughts on that?
As an astrologer, the vibration of Saturn and the Saturn sort of lords, you know, the lowest level of Saturn is control and limitation. And in the Atlantean times, when things started to get really dark, there was this sort of like these groups that were really associating with that and ways to kind of harness energy and like work that Saturn energy on the lowest level. But we have to understand when we interface with that, because it affects us, you know, if that's going on, it's also taking souls and those energies, you know, permeate into the environment, which, you know, links into people and they start to like, you know, become pulled into it. But that's how we experience it, as challenge, limitation, and control. What do we do in the face of it? We have to work with the law of structure. We can't get rid of Saturn, so we work with the energies of Saturn. Saturn represents limitation, responsibility, and discipline as you start to raise the vibration until you find a place of mastery. And Saturn on the highest level is master teacher. But in order to get to that higher level, we have to go through the gatekeepers that are using that energy to do the kind of things that you mentioned.
Do the evil stuff and things like that,
The
right?
lowest level of Saturn is terrible. But as we experience it, it's the trials and tribulations that give us the revelation of, wait a second, I don't need that authority, I don't need that control. And then we move that law of structure to our own personal discipline, and we take that control and say, I'd rather be disciplined in the way I take care of my body and this and that. We still work with that law, but without something, you know, enslaving us, because Saturn is the energy behind enslavement, if we're not on a higher level to work with it and become a master and teacher.
The Edge of Wonder.
I want to just, so the child pedophilia that's going on, I don't think people really realize the extent
Or believe it's happening, because it's so bad and dirty. How could humans even possibly be doing that? Like, it's such a hard thing to accept. Like, when I present that information to my mother, for instance, like, she's just like, no, can't.
Well, it goes even beyond the pedophilia. I mean, the sacrificing rituals of children and everything. I mean, do you know about this? And what's the extent of how deep that you know and how far it goes into government?
I mean, yeah, government, royal family. I mean, even, you know, there's dark aspects in, you know, Hollywood. It's all just a feeding frenzy that, you know, we need to step up and do something about it. It's like, there's people like the Queen that are associated with the missing children, you know, abduction of children, you know. So many people go missing, and it's a real thing. I guess it was some whistleblower was saying that they were trying to present something to those that are more on the side of positivity, that they need our compassion because they need this to exist. They said, we're an ancient cyborg race. If we don't take these children and do this, we're going to perish. And it's like, freaking perish already. None of us are afraid to, you know, we serve something good, we serve something divine, and that actually is the life force we connect with. They don't even want to go there. They want to take it and steal it from the purity of a young child, because they're afraid of digressing, because they can't go through the karmic rounds of correcting what they've been doing for thousands of years, and they're born into it. So they're like in survival. And it's just like, sorry folks, we're going to protect those children, we're going to get those children back, and we're going to bust you, and you're going to have to do what you're going to have to do. And we have that responsibility, and I know it's difficult for people. We don't like this either.
No one does.
Something has to be done. That denial is toxic, and it's negative on the soul. Once we're in the know, we have to take responsibility. The more we shut it down, we're not helping anyone.
That's very true. Well, it even goes with like in China, they're like harvesting organs from like people with spiritual beliefs and everything else that they're keeping there, and then it's the same thing. It's like when you start talking about this, like how hundreds of thousands of people are being murdered for their organs, where you can just get a heart in like a matter of 2 weeks. It's like a lot of people either turn a blind eye or just don't want to believe it, and it's kind of the same. It's all in the same thing of just this ugly, horrible human stuff that's not even human. It's just this.
Right. And then they, you know, implant, and they do things. They compromise our food, and they do all these things so that our spirit doesn't know how to come into the body, because the vibration has been so tainted and distorted, and so then we can't have access to the spirit energy that can clear all this. But we can heal genetic mutations even. We can't like be at the mercy of all this anymore. We have to say, we got to take our power back and be like, they're just tricking us out of something that we can you know, integrate, and then it'll start to blow out whatever assaults, whatever damage, has been there. But we have to be willing to just step into alignment, and it's ours, And if it's difficult to look at it on a spiritual level, it's look at it as like the love of the mother, unconditional love, no matter what, and just to allow yourself to just be open to it, to neutralize the weaponry and the assaults, and it'll, the nanoparticles and the chemtrails are getting into our bodies to link us to the artificial intelligence, but we have the choice to just choose spirit, and we just have to keep invoking it. We have to just make that commitment to ourselves, just like a relationship, and then everything flows.
What has been the highlight of the event so far for you? How has the event been for you?
I just noticed moment to moment has been the best highlights, like the synchronicities, bumping into this person, that person. What I was really surprised about, some of the people I really admire that are other speakers that I haven't had the chance of meeting, they're like, oh yeah, I follow your work, I've got quotes of you in my book, and like, thank you so much for what you said about Hillary, because nobody was, busting her for being evil back in the day. And he was like, you were the one person that like was willing to blow that lid off, and he was just like, thank you, and I was like, what? I'm like, I didn't know. I mean, I don't know who's following me. I don't know.
She deserves more than an award for that.
So I guess that kind of surprised me. I'm sure other people were saying stuff, but like he really was lasered in on, just recognizing like, what I've been trying to do, and that meant a lot to me because, sometimes it's not that I forget, but like I don't walk around like owning it. I'm just sort of me. I'm very simple, just like me. And we were talking about our mission. It's like it found me, and I'm trying to keep up with it. It's like, come on, let me finish my coffee. Give me a second.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, and we really appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and all your support, too. She's been supporting us a lot, guys.
Oh, yeah, and I will continue to, and it's my pleasure, and I love hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
Thank you. This is
like, actually, this is a super high point for me. I would say it's like at the tippy top.
You heard it here.
No, seriously, I'm so flattered by that. Oh man, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so this is Rob and Ben from Contact in the Desert 2018, and Laura, of course. Thank you very much. And until next time,
we'll see you guys out
on the edge.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of The Edge of Wonder. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode from The Edge of Wonder. Wonder, wonder, wonder.